Welcome back to another episode of the Downsizing Roadmap Podcast with your hosts, Jody Roscoe and Heather Fisher. We're talking about all things downsizing, from our own experiences with clients to guest experts. Let's make downsizing easier, one conversation at a time.
Hi, welcome back to another episode of the Downsizing Roadmap Podcast. I'm Heather Fisher.
And I'm Jody Roscoe.
And we are going to talk today about what to keep when the kids are grown and say they don't want anything.
I'm feeling this so much. My kids are just starting to leave the nest, but I have a bunch of their stuff, and we have so many clients that we've seen who still have their stuff like 20 years later.
Yes.
Or more.
Yes.
And so I'm like a little emotional about it. They are less emotional about it, but they have some stuff they do want to keep, or they think they do. So it's a whole thing.
It is a topic that so many of us deal with, and I'm, at different stages of it in different ways, and not wanting the stuff that my mom has kept over the years for me, and still wanting to keep things for my kids. And, we're just going to have to all work through it together.
Right.
I think it struck me as we were preparing for this episode. We had a client that we went to see once, Jody, and do you remember the bedroom? I think the adult child was maybe in their 30s or 40s.
40s, I think.
It looked like they had stepped out that morning for school because
From high school.
Yes. Because the bedroom had been kept as such a time capsule.
It really was.
Everything
and clean, cleaned, like it wasn't.
Yes, maintained.
Yes, but exactly.
Yes, the same. Posters on the wall and
trophies, all of the things,
everything. I think that was the biggest example that we've seen of just nothing was let go, and it was honored in a way, but also, made that room not be a function for somebody for all of those years, because it was just left in that time capsule state. So
we'll talk about that was probably the most extreme that we've seen.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
A lot of people have the stuff in bins or in boxes or whatever in the attic or the basement or, some storage area. There's a lot of that.
Yeah. So let's try to find that common ground and the best, way to keep a few things and what those things might be, and how to get rid of those items that you really don't need to keep and feel good about that too.
Yeah. I think my story that relates to this the most is, you know what it is, but we were moving 4 years ago or 5 years ago, and I forgot that I had put stuff up in the attic, and then I was super mad at myself because, the movers were there already when I realized that that's what had happened. And so I was pulling stuff down, and not earlier in the day, I had a bin of my daughter's stuff, and she's like, "Mom, why do you have this stuff?" She was like 14 and already didn't want it, right? And she's like, "Why do you have this stuff?" And it was her baby clothes, and you're like, "Oh, it's her baby clothes." You get all the sentimental, right? Yeah. I get it. And and she's like, "Mom, why do we have this?" I'm like, "I don't know, but I can't deal with it now. We're moving. We're going to put it in there." But they're sweet. I love it, whatever. And then I pulled down from the attic a bin of my baby clothes that my mom had given me. And I'm like, I don't want these. Why do I even have these up here? And my daughter's like, mm-hmm.
Yes.
And I'm like, yeah.
Yeah. I think not too long ago, in the last couple of years, my mom gave me the outfit I wore home from the hospital. Right? And it's the one outfit, and I appreciate it. I was like, oh, that's fun to see. And it's still in the bag she gave it to me in, and I don't know where to put it, what to do with it. I really don't want it. But
it's almost why did you save it? Because now I feel responsible for it, right? And if you hadn't saved it, I wouldn't feel this responsibility.
Right.
And also, just FYI, the clothes from the 70s were so scratchy.
Mine was the little dress. I mean, it was all dresses and the little bloomers to go under it from the 70s.
Sweet.
Yes.
Yeah. I had, my parents were, you know, a little bit in the hippie side. So I have these, like, she saved these, like, leopard print, like, flare, like, pants. But
nice.
Nothing is soft. Like, it's all very, very polyester, nice. Scratchy kind of whatever. So it's funny.
So you're not saving those for your grandkids?
Yeah, no. So I'm not saving those, but I have to, there are still things for my kids that I need to listen to myself on this episode and remember that I didn't want it. So I shouldn't keep it as a burden for them, to be honest, because it is then turns into something that feels burdensome. Like that's how you don't know what to do with your one outfit.
Yeah.
Same thing. Like it feels like a burden to you now because your mom gave it to you and you're like, now what do I do?
Yes.
So we don't want to, do that to our kids and have them feel like all of this downsizing, all of it is like, if you're procrastinating the decisions, you're putting them on someone else and you're like putting that guilt or that, delay onto them.
Yes.
So we just need to be, put on our, big girl panties and make the decisions.
Yes. Yes.
Do it.
We can definitely do that. We will give some tips around that.
Yep.
Yeah. So why do we think it's so hard to let go of that memorabilia?
I mean, like when I'm talking about my daughter's clothes, like she came early and so she was a preemie and my friend went and got like the cutest stuff because she came to the hospital and she was like, that is not going to fit like the regular newborn clothes. Yeah. And so she just bought it and they are just so tiny and I don't know, it just reminded me, it just when I pull those out, they're like you actually didn't even fit in this. Like you were littler than this little, jumper that is here. And so there's so much emotional stuff around some of it. Yeah. I think that's, for me, that's part of the issue. It just really brings me back to that day.
Yeah. I think I did one way. I don't always succeed at all of our advice on here, but when I moved a couple years ago, I did kind of confine each of my kids, I have 3 kids, to one, Rubbermaid bin for each of them as I was going through things and what to keep. And it does feel good to have it in that, equal space for each, different things in each bin, but it feels manageable. But there's stuff in there that they won't care about, but I feel less like I'm putting guilt when it's one bin. One bin. Do with it as you will. And then I look back and I'm like, well, it's just one outfit and it was that. But I think, you just kind of want to be able to walk down that road again because parenting flies by so fast. We blink and they're old enough to be out of the house. And, all of those days to sum up, I think looking back at some of it tugs at all of our heartstrings.
Yeah. And I think time lets you let go of some things more than others. Like I had a bin that I had kind of thrown things in when Maddie was little. And when I look at it, the tiny baby clothes still get me. But there were some of like her favorite pajamas or, stuff that when she was a little bit older that like at the time it felt hard to throw those away or let those go. Or all of her crib bedding and all of that stuff, like I kept it for a little while, even though I wasn't having another baby girl. It was hard for me. But then at a certain time, it was like, why do I need that? I don't even need that at all. Like, it's actually not even hard. It's kind of like, what am I keeping this for? Yeah. And so time sometimes does help you. But I do think also, creating a little box or doing something along those lines. One of the other things that I think proof of parenting is kind of something that comes up of like we did have this whole life. Now that you're gone, we had this whole life in their artwork or their, whatever. And some people don't care about that at all. One of our team members, she's like, yeah, I'm not a good art keeper, but that's okay. She might keep other things or she might not keep anything and all still good. The memories are still there. Yeah.
I think that it's the same case that we find with, our adult kids later on, their memories of the house that they grew up in and all of that. What we curate for what we think they will want, might be along the lines of that artwork or the report cards or trophies. And they're like, no, I want my favorite stuffed animal and, this random
rock I found when we went to some place or whatever,
random
totally
collection.
Random.
And so I think that conversation and not assuming what are those mile markers, that difference of, is it your memories of parenting or their memories of being a kid, which one are you keeping it for, can be totally different answers on.
Well, I think like 90% of the time you are keeping it for yourself, not for your kids.
Yeah.
Like they aren't. So, we talk about how when you own something, it's hard to let it go.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
And so, another story, when we moved, Ryan, my son, did not want to get rid of anything out of his room. Like he was, was he probably like 10? And he just could not make any decisions. He didn't really like the whole moving thing in the first place, although he loves the house now. But, that was that was the house he was born in. So that was a big change. And then thinking about having to like let go of things it was not happening. So boxed up the whole room without getting rid of anything. And those boxes sat in his room for like 6 months in the new house. And I'd be like, honey, you need to unpack that stuff. Like, let's unpack it. And he's like, yeah, we'll get to it. Like, he's like, I like my room looking clean. Like, he took out the stuff that he wanted.
Right.
And then one day I came home and the boxes were gone, and I was like, oh my gosh, like he undid it, like he did it. But then his room didn't look that much different. So I'm like, where's the boxes? And they were in the basement. He just had like carried them all down to the basement. So he still wasn't letting go of it for sure. But he doesn't even know it's in there. And that's the thing. Once you get released, my point I'm trying to make is once you get away from it, you don't even remember what it is. Yeah. And so it obviously wasn't important. He obviously doesn't need any of it.
Yeah.
And so it's been a couple years and he doesn't need it.
I think that becomes a problem for all of us. He's not alone in that, is that when we delayed the decision the first time, the decision felt hard in that moment, but whatever it was already in front of you and you were thinking it through. But when you delay it, it gets swooped back into a box or into a corner or into the basement, the attic, wherever, and it becomes even more of a bigger project. And where time has eased your emotion around it, you almost have to dig all that emotion back up and you go into a spiral. So it can be challenging.
Yeah.
But you have to be honest with yourself that if you didn't know what was in the boxes before you opened them and you hadn't needed to open them or wanted to seek out whatever it was in a few years or more, don't let yourself go back into that decision circle.
Right. He just ended up creating like 10 maybe boxes.
Yes.
That then he didn't really need anything out of, honestly.
Yeah.
So I mean, since we didn't actually do it like a maybe box where you look at it, decide I may or may not need this. So I don't know if there could be money in there. I have no idea what's in there, because it was just all, my friend actually had to help him pack because it was such a thing. We're not going to argue about it. We're just going to, and so she helped him do his room. And so it was just kind of all everything. So I do feel like I have to go through those boxes, but really knowing it as I go through them, there isn't, unless it's something that's worth, actual money or,
actual
whatever
value
it is
one thing. There's no more sentimental value to those items because they haven't been touched or missed.
Yeah. Or looked for.
Yeah. So I think we all need to, turn on that part of our brain at some point that if they haven't been missed for sentimental reasons or sought out, just make that quick value decision. And most likely not a lot of value in most of the things that you've got tucked in those corners.
No, there's definitely not. Definitely not.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of our stats is that 80% of parents hold on to their kids' belongings long after they've moved out. And I think some of that is when your kids move out, which, your older kids obviously moved out quite some time ago. Our daughters just went to college. Ryan still has a couple years, but your whole life changes and you are still holding on to that original life, right? And as they're moving on, your brain has to get through that part to get to the part where, okay, they aren't going to come back and use these things or, whatever. And so it's okay to take a little time on that, but you don't need 20 years later to be having boxes of your kids' stuff. And if you do, and you think you saved it for them, they probably don't want it. Like they probably would have come and got it if that was something that they really wanted.
Yeah.
Sometimes the kids are like in an apartment and they're like, oh, keep that for me for later, mom and dad. And, you know, sometimes we hear our clients say, oh, they're telling us they want it and they're going to keep it. I'm like, well, then they can come get it. Like it's time. Like it's time for them to come and get it.
Yeah. It's such a difference, you know, in moves for ourselves. There's usually a closing date or a date you have to be out for the landlord, and it's an all or nothing. You have a final date, and at those early adult phases when our kids are first leaving the house, in many cases it's not like a clean line. They might be away at college but home on breaks and still want their space, or they're testing out, you know, a new job, but then there's a transition where they're back for a little bit before something else, or military, all of those things where it's not
like, you know, they still might come home for a little while.
It's not and you want them to, and it's helpful to them, and that's that phase of life where it's just a bouncing in and out a bit while they're figuring out that permanent place, that there's never that definite line like, okay, we have to have this room empty by, you know, the 15th and done. And so a lot of us leave that transition open too long, not to say that you know, cutting them off, that they're not welcome, but once that time has already happened, we never had that deadline of like, okay, now we're figuring out the rest of this, and the kids have taken what they wanted. I mean, they didn't leave that behind. The stuff they wanted, they packed with them, you know, when they make that transition. I think we have note of a couple good questions to ask if you really are unsure about saving stuff for your kids. Ask, and here was some good questions that we could suggest. You could ask, if you were building a memory box, what would be in it?
Yeah.
Let them help you decide what to put in it. Don't decide for them. And just the simple question, you know, for that transition on their room, do you want to keep anything from your old room? And once they answer, believe them.
Don't be like, but don't you want the snuggle bunny? And don't you want, you know,
Yeah. And let them say no. Give them that freedom to just say, no, I'm good. I took what I want, and be okay with that. Because they are.
Well, and they're growing. And like, I had the most amazing like Barbie house when I was growing up, but I don't need it now. You know, they're growing and changing and turning into different people, and their identities are changing and growing. And, you know, sometimes they want to keep some of that stuff as a memory of who they were at one time, and sometimes they just don't need it, and it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah. I think back to what we always say, that, you know, kids or people value the stories more than things. So any ways that you can preserve, you know, that parenting picture or that childhood picture in ways that aren't taking up the space of all of the items, but are telling the story, you know, in a curated photo album, or you know, a small memory box with the stories, or a few key items with the story attached, that can be so much more of a win than the burden of, you know, when are you going to pick up these boxes I packed for you? And, you know, that's just burdening their next house right from the beginning.
Well, and different kids are different. I mean, one kid might want everything. They might be a keeper and they just want all of it. And another kid might be like, I don't want any of that, mom or dad, you know, like, I don't want any of it. And so, you know, if they wanted, you know, art, or, you know, make it special. Like if they wrote a funny story when they were, you know, in the 4th grade, or if they, you know, had a piece of art that was really cool or whatever, maybe that's it. And you frame that, and either you keep it or you let them have it. But the stories, exactly, the stories, and they don't want, I mean, maybe somebody does, but most kids don't want every report card they ever had, even though I have those in a file, but like, it's time to let those go once they're done with school. Like, that you don't need any of that stuff. So,
I think too, later on, when you've curated it down to specific things for specific reasons, if they came across a box that had one report card with the sweetest note or the funniest note when the teachers write the comments and all of that, and you have circled it or put a story along with it, that would be amazing. But if they're faced with a box of every paper that came home from school from kindergarten through 6th grade, the likelihood of them going through and even finding those chosen things is slim that they would do that.
Yeah, I agree. So maybe it's their favorite book that you read them all the time. Maybe it's just one book, not all their books of their childhood or, whatever. And when you save some of that stuff, because then what people will do is they'll go, okay, the kids don't want it, I'm going to save it for the grandkids. Right? Because they're not ready to let go.
They're not old enough to tell you they don't want it yet. So you kick that can down the road for sure.
So then you're like, okay, well, we're going to save it for the grandkids. And so, again, maybe their favorite book. Like, I have my Nana's Winnie the Pooh book, which was her when she was little, and my mom read me that book all the time. And so that's really cool. Like, it's a cool thing to have, and it was hers, and I love it. And so, but she read like crazy. Like, she had thousands of books. I think she had so many books. So I have one, and it's good. And
I think books are one of those things, a few chosen books, not boxes and boxes of books, but they're timeless because books don't change. The story's there, it's paper, and, a book is a book, and you can share that with multi-generations of kids and pass that down. I think we come into trouble when you think that all of the things you had to parent your own children will be applicable or appreciated later on.
Like my Nancy Drew books.
Yes.
That I saved for my daughter, who then wasn't really, it wasn't her thing, or I waited too long to give them to her, or whatever that looked like. Yeah. Like, it wasn't right. And so they were like something from my childhood, but they actually weren't the thing from her childhood. And so that's also okay.
Right. And other categories, baby gear for sure changes.
Safety, all that stuff.
Saving that for the grandkids, you don't want to do that because it's not, years of storage is not going to make it feel clean and fresh, which is what every parent wants for their brand new baby. Right. They want, the new stuff. And safety-wise, car seats change, strollers change, cribs change, high chairs change. Yes. All of it changes for, safety and, portability, and all the ways it changes. It's very rare that any of that would be used later on, and those are big, bulky items to store. Right. Even to have your grandkids use it when they come to visit, you really want things that are up to the current safety codes, and investing in whatever you need, or having, your kids bring that with the kids to use. You don't want to be pulling things out of the attic that you have no idea what year they were made or whether they're still safe for, the precious grandkids. They're the most important, speaking from experience.
Your little precious grandkids.
Yeah. I think, beyond that, clothing you talked about earlier, if you're keeping an outfit for your kid of your children for that reason, that you really just want to keep for that memory, and it's one or two, but don't keep boxes of clothes for another generation. It just changes.
Right. Styles change. Like I said, literally everything my mom had kept was the scratchiest thing. Like, I would never put it on a child now. And I'm sure that was the thing at the time, and I'm not giving, no hard feelings to mom on that, but it just changes, and it's different.
When you packed it away, and, stains that were there, because all baby clothes is stained for one reason or another, you pull that out and it's glaringly,
More
when you
stained.
packed it away because you loved it,
Right.
You didn't see those things anymore. You saw your kid wearing it and how much you loved those moments. When you pull it out 20 years later, it's,
it hits different.
It's in a different condition than it was in your head and your memories. So there's no need to store it that long.
Same with books. They get that kind of moldy smell, especially depending on where you're storing it. And I think that just that fact, I think people keep stuff because they do put it in a place where you don't see it.
Yeah.
Whether that's the garage or the attic or the basement or some storage area. Why they ended up keeping it for so long is because it really wasn't in their way.
Yeah.
And so, but it also may not be keeping it in the best condition.
Yeah, absolutely. If you are truly keeping things for heirloom reasons, they need to be stored properly so that they can be pulled back out later.
Yeah.
And I mean, speaking from experience, I have 2 grandkids, and there's nothing that I love more than creating new, grandma and grandchildren memories versus recreating the memories from my child. So I love, finding books, that my grandson loves, that I've bought books, and that when he comes to my house, I'm reading the same book, but it's different than, my son's favorite book from way back then. And so leave that space so that you're creating those new memories, or, buying that cute outfit that you want to buy for them for, Christmas or whatever, instead of trying to pull something out that doesn't need revisited.
Right. Making them their child, your child's life revisited again.
Yeah, exactly. Just build those new memories where you can.
Yeah, so that's the thing. So instead of trying to save stuff for your grandkids, consider a memory box for your child. It was your child and your experience with them. And then your grandkids can be a different experience, right?
Yeah. And deserving of those memories to pass on to them at some point.
Yeah.
Of, here's the book I loved to read every time you came over, and those type of things.
Yeah.
But you can't just pack up that category of your house and say, I saved this for you. It won't go over well. And, new parents, while they're appreciative of the help that grandparents can give in helping with all of the things they need, passing that burden on at this moment, well, you need these things, without giving them that excitement to, pick the crib that they want for their kid, or, the toys and things like that, it just doesn't go over well.
Yeah. They're going to want create their own style, their own parenting style, their own nursery style, maybe their own kind of toys that they buy their kids, all of that. They want to have that experience just like we had that experience.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you can, if there are things you want to save, you can do some things. You can create memory books. You can create memory books of some photos and maybe, an artwork piece or two, or, not tons of books, just, again, we're thinking a bin, or a book, or, something like that. You can scan things too. You can electronically scan them. So it's not lots of pieces of paper, but I probably wouldn't scan every report card they have still. Just be careful of using that as a crutch to not get rid of things.
Right. And digital clutter is just as much of a problem as, physical clutter. If it's too much and too overwhelming, it never gets looked at all, versus a presentation in some way that's manageable. Mm-hmm. It's enjoyed to look back over. So any of these things, if you scan everything or keep everything, then nothing is special.
Right.
So be careful on choosing what you do.
Yeah, right. You could write letters. You could create a legacy letter for each child about their childhood, about your memories of their childhood. You could do some kind of online app or something like that about your stories of your childhood. So again, back to the stories is what's most important to them. I think legacy letters would be really cool.
Yeah, to go along with just one small bin. Like, what a treasure to get that.
Yeah. You could keep, if they did a sport and you really loved that, you could do a keepsake quilt from their T-shirts or maybe from their baby clothes or something like that. You could make a little quilt or do something different with those things instead of having just a pile of clothes that are in a bin somewhere. Something that you use. Again, remember, if it's like just sitting somewhere in a box or something, then there are no additional memories being made around that thing, And so if you have something that was special to you, it should be out. Like you should be using it.
Yeah, and I think I would caution to be careful with that. That makes sure if you're taking on a big project to, like the T-shirt quilt, for example, I would make sure that those things are special to the person you're giving it to, so that you don't set yourself up for disappointment if they're like, oh, I didn't even really remember that I played baseball, or
right, or it's your quilt, that you use.
You keep it and use it, and if you don't want to either, then you don't need to go through all of that to do that, because you don't want to set yourself up for disappointment if they're like, oh, thanks, Mom, and it quickly goes by the wayside. Make sure you're not using that as a way to delay more decisions,
right,
by making a big project to honor something that doesn't have meaning to the person they're giving it to.
Correct. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a limit, right? It's going to be one bin or one shelf or one segmented area that's not super large.
Yeah.
So that we know how to stop ourselves from keeping too much, right?
Yeah.
We can have a tier system when we're looking at a thing. So one is like really deeply and emotional, and you really want to keep it. But again, think about it. If you're putting it in a bin and putting it somewhere, how important is it really? Really, how important is it?
Yeah.
Tier 2 would be nice to have it if space allows, like if there's room in the bin, like this might still go. And tier 3 is you probably should let it go. You're just keeping it just in case, or like, what if my grandkids want that? Or what if my kid changes their mind and they decide they want that? And when we were packing to move, Maddie had all of these participation trophies from all the sports that we had tried. And she looked at them, and they were up on a shelf in her room, like, because when kids first start, you put out the things, and but she didn't want them at the new room at all. She was like, I don't need any of these. Like, these mean nothing to me. And so they all went in the trash, and she was like, and that, fine, that's fine.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't make your guilt make you upset by their decisions.
Yeah.
It's their stuff.
Yeah.
And do that. So
ask yourself, would you buy that again today? Or is that something that you feel like you need? Or, how much joy is that bringing you? Like, is that something you would want to put out? Ask yourself those things. Like, are you going to put that out somewhere to remind you of whatever that is? Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I think all good questions. If you are just keeping things in a box and no one is revisiting that box.
Yeah.
Always a good indicator that those are the things that could and should go.
Yeah. Yeah. So saving things just in case is going to be a clutter trap. Like, you're going to end up with lots of clutter just in case things. And are you really saving it just in case, or are you just delaying that decision because you're feeling emotional about it, or whatever that looks like?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's not about, reframing the process. It's not about erasing your past. It's about curating what matters. And we talk about this for ourselves too. Like, what is our legacy? What do we want people to remember when we're saving our own things? And so maybe that's just a little legacy box of their childhood. And what is it that you want to remember about their childhood, or they want to remember, or whatever that looks like. So it's just a little legacy box of that time that you got to spend with them, as they were growing up, and what that looks like.
Yeah, and I think if you're putting things in that legacy box, the best thing you could include is the stories of why those things were chosen.
Yeah.
Because everybody looks at things from the perspective of different memories, and what a gift if they can see, your parental experience around whatever you chose to keep for them. They might not remember, this was the stuffed animal that was in your arms every moment of your toddler years because you couldn't put it down.
Yeah.
They've already moved past that memory, but that, make sure that's included. So it's not just like, oh, what's this ratty teddy bear in here for? Put the stories with anything that you're choosing to keep and let it be a choice, not just a delay.
Yeah. Yep. So good luck with it.
Yeah.
If you have their stuff that 20 years later, it's time for them to come get it, or it's time to let it go. It's not necessarily, an easy thing. I think it's easier as time goes on a little bit, but it's not erasing anything. It's just, making room for their growth as a person and your growth, as you move through life, and, a little legacy box of what their childhood was and how important it was to you, and some memories that you have about it, I think would be perfect.
And room for all those memories as new memories as they grow or your family expands and more people get added.
Yeah.
There's room in there for all of that growth, which is a wonderful phase in life.
Yeah.
So awesome. So thanks for listening today. If you enjoy our podcast, we hope you follow our show or visit our website for additional resources, www.downsizingroadmap.com, and we will talk to you next time.
Talk to you next time.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us on the Downsizing Roadmap Podcast. If you found this episode helpful, be sure to subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with someone who might need a little downsizing inspiration. Have questions or ideas for future episodes? Reach out to us on our website, www.downsizingroadmap.com. Until next time, let's keep simplifying and moving forward.